What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of 30 Minutes of Hell. I am your host, Brandon Baker, joined by Joey Jackson and Matt Jackson. Reminder, we are brought to you by the Field of 68 Podcast Network. You can find us on YouTube, Twitter, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your stuff under 30 Minutes of Hell. And we appreciate you guys tuning in to talk some Razorback hoops with us. It's been a weird off season already so far. It's been a minute since we've talked, but we've got a lot to talk about. We've got a couple more Razorbacks that have hit the portal since we last recorded an episode. We've got rumors about Musselman flying all over the place. We're going to get deep into that here in a minute. And then we're going to look at the transfer portal. It's been a slower start to the portal than maybe we're used to, but it's also earlier in the off season than we're used to looking at the portal. So we're going to get into all that right now. Got a ton to talk about, so let's get straight into it. Right off the bat, a couple guys left since the last time we talked. Devo Davis announced that he's entering the transfer portal. Not super unexpected. I feel like for Devo at this point, it was either try the pro route or try to use his COVID year somewhere else. Wasn't a huge shock, but there's not a lot to say. I'm super grateful for everything Devo did for the program, but I do think it was time to take the next step in his career, whatever that may be. So there's not much more to say than that. Thank you, Devo, and I hope that he does find success where he goes. I love Devo, great kid. I hope that he does well, but I think that it was time to move on from the Razorback jersey.
Yep, wish him the best. Hope he does great things next year.
Yeah, big memories based on Devo alone. So happy for
Very true.
him. You can definitely come to UCA. I'll watch you there.
Yeah, maybe him and KK will both be at Euler next year.
You're right.
All right, and so then the other guy that hit the portal, a little less expected, maybe to some people not so much, but Layden Blocker announced that he will not be coming back to Arkansas next year, and that one hurts. Another Arkansas native guy, a guy that we were hoping was going to be kind of a cornerstone, at least for next year's team, if not for a couple years. Definitely could have been in contention to be the starting point guard next year, and he was really a joy to watch whenever he played this year. And it's hard to blame him because of the inconsistencies with his minutes and everything and his role this season. Like, I get it. He's looking for playing time, someone that will value the skill set that he brings. But man, it sucks that we're not going to get to see him play anymore because I loved watching Layden play. I will still enjoy watching him play. I'll be rooting for him. He's one of those guys that even when he transfers, I will still be watching and hoping that he succeeds. How do you guys feel about Layden hitting the portal?
Like you said, it hurts. Not very often do you get a guy who is a complete and utter dog defensively. And that's what he does. That's what his focus is. And you don't see guys like that super often. I'm sure that wherever he goes, he's going to be a difference maker. And honestly, he's probably the difference between a good team, a tournament team, and a great team that makes a run. Uh, Love the kid. I wish him all the best, all the good things. I wish so bad that we could keep him in a Hogs jersey, but I think I mentioned it on the podcast, and we've talked about it throughout the year. We were all kind of concerned that with his inconsistency of minutes, if he would consider staying, because one game he would get 20 minutes, then the next he would be a DNP. So I definitely understand the decision. I wish it weren't so, but definitely hope that he thrives elsewhere if he does end up going to a new team.
Yeah, and I think we all agree, and maybe even the entire state of Arkansas agrees that Musselman does not develop players. And he's coming from an NBA background, and they just don't really do that. If you're the head coach or even assistant coach of an NBA team, not very often are you developing players. You're trying to make a run and win the championship, and usually you need some veterans in there. So we've seen it in the past. 4 stars just don't really get too many chances, and Blocker was kind of one of those exceptions where he really did get a few chances, had some random spots where he started, and we thought he was doing well enough to continue playing a big role. But I don't know, it was just, I feel like a little Eric Musselman thing, not wanting to play youth over uh, experience, and ultimately led to once again another fall through of one of those in-state and 4 star recruits.
I think it'll be a giant what if on Layden's,
We have a
not
lot of
Layden's
those.
resume, but a giant what if in the history of the Razorbacks, losing him.
Yeah, and it's kind of it's hard to say that it's really a trend so far because Layden is unique in the fact that he got so much opportunity compared to some of these other guys. But if you look at some of the in-state guys that have come through recently, the guys like Darian Ford and KK Robinson, and guys that have been here a year and didn't get the opportunity that maybe they hoped for, and now they're gone. And someone like KK that really excelled this year. I understand it was in a lower conference, but I think that, in a different situation, maybe he could have been good in a bigger conference too, had his career taken a different route. I'm curious to see what our in-state recruiting looks like over the next couple of cycles, because I just think that some of these guys, like these families know each other. These in-state families, these guys, even like Nick Smith with all the stuff that went on with him, I don't know if his family is going to vouch for Muss in some of these recruiting battles at this point. And the Robinsons, the blockers, I'm pretty sure Darian Ford's family is not super thrilled with Muss. And so it'll be interesting to see, like, we already lost Honor Boateng to Missouri. You've got a guy like Terry and Burgess coming up, who's like a top 40, top 30 recruit in the country in the next cycle. And if you miss out on him, that's huge. You can't be missing out on those kind of in-state guys. And so it's interesting to see kind of, I think this is one of the big puzzle pieces that has kind of fit into all the Musselman rumors this offseason about him searching for other opportunities, is this kind of lack of trust and lack of faith that he's losing a little bit in some of these in-state families and in-state kids. And maybe we're off base. Maybe he does land the guys that he needs to, but it's definitely something to watch, with these guys coming in, not getting the opportunity they want, and then leaving. So that's something I'm definitely keeping an eye on over the next couple of recruiting cycles. But as far as the current team, with Devo and Layden gone, that leaves us now with Caleb Battle, Tremont Mark, Trevin Brazil, and Bay Fall as the four guys who have not really announced anything in either direction. We kind of went into depth on the last episode if you want to hear our thoughts on getting those guys back, whether we think they'll come back, all that kind of stuff. But that's kind of where we are and who we're waiting to hear from for next year's roster to see what kind of returning players we're going to have. But speaking of Musselman and potentially burning bridges and stuff like that, there's just been all kinds of rumors all over the place already this offseason. We're not even to the third weekend of the NCAA tournament yet. We're barely starting the second weekend. So we're going to get into some of these rumors and talk about some stuff that's been going on recently. But first, we're going to take a quick break for some ads, and we will be right back.
The best month of the year is here, which is why you need to know that we are now partnered with BetMGM. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68 all through the NCAA tournament. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, you can use the bonus code FIELD, and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM, regardless of whether or not that bet hits. Here's the best part. All you need to do is deposit and bet $10 of your hard-earned money. This is how you make it work. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you get up to $1,500 in bonus bets, regardless of the outcome of your bet. Just make sure you use that bonus code FIELD when you sign up. Most importantly, we do have some fun stuff coming for the conference tournaments and especially for the NCAA tournament. Bet insurance tokens, college hoops odds boosts, and what I love the most, a nice parlay boost for anything you could possibly imagine betting on in the NCAA tournament, from odds and getting an at-large bid to Final Four futures to the highest seed to make to the Sweet 16. I'm calling it right now. BetMGM is the king of the prop bet for your March Madness needs. So go download the BetMGM app, use the code FIELD, and sign up today. And while I've got you, a quick request: the best way to support the Field of 68 and our content you get for free is to engage with us. Rate and review the pod, like and share the YouTube videos, tell your friends about us. It helps in a world where the algorithm is king. And now, back to the show.
Okay. Eric Musselman, coaching carousel, rumors galore. It's been wild. He's been linked to pretty much every job that's been opened this offseason so far. I think most seriously linked to Louisville. He was a very serious candidate there. SMU came up as an option. I know that his sister lives in the area, knows some big boosters in the area. It's a big recruiting hotspot in Texas. So I think there was real fire beneath the smoke of some of these schools. Maybe there was never an offer on the table. Maybe it wasn't the right offer for Musselman. Maybe he's just communicating to use this as leverage in a potential raise in the future. We don't know. I don't know what all the background stuff is, but I do think that he was connected to a lot of these jobs. I think that he communicated with people. Again, I don't know if he was offered any contracts or anything like that, but there was fire beneath the smoke of Musselman potentially searching at other job opportunities this offseason. And I don't think that he's even really made his decision yet. We haven't got anything official from anybody. I think, the USC job opened because their head coach took the SMU job. And we've always said that a West Coast job is the scariest thing to poach Muss away from us. And it's because it's where he's from. If he can go back out west to a prestigious school like USC, I just think that would be hard to turn down if they give him that offer, if they give him the right offer. And so, but I said a second ago, we haven't really got anything official yet, and we haven't. But Hunter Yurachek today, we're recording on Thursday, and Hunter Yurachek today tweeted out a video, and it was a video of Musselman. If you haven't been paying attention to Twitter today, the last couple days, it was a video of Musselman on one of the school transit buses. He's doing the skit. He adjusts the mirror. Hunter Yurachek's getting on the bus. Muss tells everybody, buckle up back there. It's a whole play on the Muss bus, right? But then Yurachek turns to him and says, "What the heck? You're still here?" Obviously playing at the whole rumor carousel situation. But it's very interesting that that video was the same video that was released 3 years ago when this stuff wasn't going on, right? This video came out in 2021, except it had a different ending. It had Yurachek on there just like looking almost like scared of where the bus was going to take him. But it's very interesting that Yurachek released this video today. Not only that it came out and it was just him that tweeted it, but that there's now a report surfacing that Musselman didn't know that he was going to tweet it. That there's reports surfacing that the staff was a little blindsided and that they didn't know Yurachek was going to tweet this. And so now I'm starting to wonder, was this a Musselman is back tweet, or was this a what the heck, why are you still here tweet? And we won't know that until we get something official, but man, what a crazy day it has been so far on Twitter. I don't know. And we don't know what the heck happened, but I will say it is weird. If you look back at all the announcements Musselman has made on Twitter, all the big recruits he's gotten, schedule releases, opening day at Bud Walton Arena, all of these things, he is very organized and precise with his announcements on Twitter. He is not the only person tweeting it. He's got his players tweeting stuff out. He's got his staff tweeting stuff out. Everybody is involved. He's doing all these skits. I've never seen him reuse a video, first of all. And so the fact that he hasn't even interacted with the tweet that Yurachek put out is weird by itself. But the fact that no other accounts have done anything either, it's just weird. I don't know what that whole thing was about. I don't know if it's Yurachek playing a game. Maybe Muss is fine with it and he's just busy. I don't know, but it's out of character, to say the least. What do you guys think about this whole Muss situation today and beyond with the coaching search and everything like that?
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. First of all, it's crazy, everything going on. I was excited because finally rumors put to bed, but now it's right back up because we're Arkansas. And really, I don't know what to believe. I think that Yurachek is not an idiot, and some of the people are making it out to be like, oh, he thinks that Muss is back and Muss isn't 100% yet, but Yurachek thinks he's back. But Yurachek's not stupid. I think it is more of a kind of push, like either sign or get out. Or I mentioned this in our group chat today that it could be maybe Musselman is concerned about what we talked about earlier about losing faith in Arkansas, or Arkansas losing faith in Musselman, like just the families of Central Arkansas, things like that. And he wanted to show Musselman, like, look at the amount of support you get, because in these comments, it's a long shot. I know this is a kind of a conspiracy that I'm spitting out here.
Well, so is what I said. So.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at those comments, I would say a good chunk of them are very positive, very happy that he's back and ready to get on to the next season. And so could it have been a more of a ploy to show him, hey, you are still loved here? It's just our fan base is kind of insane during the season. And you know, I'm trying to think on a little
I
brighter note.
I'm gonna put a hard stop to that, Matt. I think that's I'm sorry, I think that's way off base. Just if that's the intention of the post, it was very, very poorly executed. And the U of A knows marketing. They're not going to poorly execute anything. Yurachek, the Razorback basketball team, they know marketing. Nothing's going to be poorly executed at the U of A athletic level. I'll just put that out first and foremost. Um, I can also guarantee that nothing would go out without proper sign-offs. Someone has info on why Yurachek posted this. But with that being said, Yurachek is the top guy that would approve something. So if he says that something's going out, then something would go out, whether Muss has seen it or not. But one thing I do want to note that I thought was super interesting is the only thing that Yurachek ever tweets is congrats posts, good job posts, great job, or good luck messages. He's the AD. You don't expect a ton out of him on social media outside of things like that. He doesn't post hype videos, doesn't do anything like that. Actually, the last time he posted a hype video was January 4th, and it was just to encourage NIL donations. It was a video compiled of different Razorback athletics. There was clips of Trevin Brazil, there was clips of the women's basketball team, things like that. But it had solidified copy in it that said, season kicks off this week. Donate to NIL to support these great athletes. Things like that. What I think is so strange is with this video, not only is it a recycled video that we used 3 years ago, but there was the edit at the end, and there was no description to it. You got a very vague hashtag with it. So to me, that's an engagement tactic on social media. There's no context, but it's causing a ton of talk around it. Not only with the fans that are excited about Muss being back, not realizing, but the fans who are like us trying to figure out what the heck is going on. So, like you said, Brandon, Muss is a marketing genius. If this was approved by him, he 1000% would have engaged with it, whether it be a retweet or a quote tweet by now. He's not gonna, even if he's busy, he's gonna make time, or his social team is going to make time to have some sort of interaction with that. That's what makes me think that Muss was not aware of it. And it also makes me think that maybe there is some bad blood between Yurachek and Muss. Because if what you're hearing from your sources is Muss is not happy about this, the Razorback basketball staff is not happy with this, then Yurachek did use this as like a prod to Muss, and there is some bad blood between them. But that's just what I see from, what Yurachek has posted in the past, and knowing the smallest bit about marketing, being, it being a possible engagement tactic to, just kind of rile some feathers and get some engagement during a down season. Being us not, having any news attention right now, not being in the tournament.
Yeah, we don't know what the heck it was for. And like you said, I've had people that have reached out and said something about how Muss didn't know, about the staff not knowing, and they were kind of caught off guard by it. And that secondhand information, do with it what you will. I'm not talking to people on staff about this, or Muss or anybody like that. So it's still interesting. I will say I don't think this was the he's back announcement that people are making it out to be. That, myself included, when I saw it, I thought, oh, this is an announcement. But then when I realize it's a recycled video, when you realize there's no engagements with it, all these other things that are coming in, I don't think that there is I don't think a decision has been made on Muss's end. That's about as confident. The only thing I can confidently say at this point is that I don't think that this means that Muss is definitively back. I'm not saying I think he's leaving either. I just don't think this video means anything one way or the other. So I think that we're still kind of wait and see.
It's just extremely weird. It doesn't make sense. It feels fishy to me.
It was off the wall for sure. But regardless, for the time being, Muss is still here, and he is still working hard in the transfer portal. We haven't seen any commits yet, but we did have our first guy visiting on campus, and they have made a priority out of several transfers. They've contacted, I think the list is over 65 guys already, and it's March 28th when we're recording. So we're going to look at some of those guys that they have been reported to have contacted. We're going to talk about the guy that's visited, and we're going to get into some people that the three of us, think could fit pretty well on next year's team. But first, we're going to take one more break, and we'll be right back. All right, it is portal season. Regardless of coaching carousel season, does seem to still be on the recruiting trail. He is still contacting his usual rate of transfers. And I saw somebody the other day say something about how there's not as many transfers in the portal right now as there have been in previous years. That's because we're usually playing still at this point in time. We're not usually looking at the portal yet. It's still early, it's still late March. I think over the next couple weeks, we're going to see, once the tournament ends and some of these teams keep losing in the tournament, we're going to see way more still hit the portal. And this is the last year that, bearing any like medical waivers or anything like that, this should be the last year that you'll have a full crop of people using their COVID year, their extra COVID year for their 5th year of college basketball. Because, and I've been basing that on Devo because he was a freshman during that year that was impacted, that the NCAA awarded the extra year to, and he's now using his COVID year. So next summer, you won't have that 5th class of guys that are in here using in the transfer portal. But this summer, it's still going to be crazy for at least one more year. So it's still in full swing. And I think that it's been kind of nice that we haven't gotten any commits yet, and that the staff seems to be kind of taking their time, doing full evaluations, talking to these guys. They're still reaching out. They still talk to a ton of guys so far based on what is being reported on Twitter and other places like that. But I feel like sometimes, especially last year, we may have rushed into some commitments and we took guys before other better guys became even available. And so I like that they're taking their time, assessing their needs, getting one guy in at a time and just kind of doing their thing, doing the evaluation process, their due diligence. And so they've started that. The first visitor that's been reported and heavily talked about is Josh Cohen from UMass. He is a 6'10" forward / center. He averaged 16 points a game last year, 7 rebounds, about 2 assists, 1 steal, and about half a block per game. He's not a super athletic big man, but he's very intelligent, plays at his own pace, has incredible footwork in the post. I really like watching him score from the post. But I did notice one thing whenever I was watching, just the generic highlight video of him. It's like 5 minutes long, and he never touched the rim one time at 6'10". And that maybe you can get by with that. Maybe not the biggest red flag, but I would like a paint beast that is, dominating boards, things like that. Maybe a lot to ask for, but I do really like Cohen's offensive game. He does shoot 34% from 3. Like I said, he is a very smart player, and I could easily see him taking the role that we kind of thought maybe Jalen Graham would slide into this year as kind of that offensive punch off the bench in the forward position, and maybe even expanding on that role and finding more consistency than what somebody like Graham had. I could see him being an every night guy, maybe off the bench, the 6th man, 7th man, something like that. In the right situation, even as a starter, I think you need a defensive guy next to him if he's going to be the starter. But I do like what he brings offensively. I think it would be a good addition to the team. I'm not disappointed in it at all. I think it would be awesome if he does commit. And from my understanding, Arkansas is in a pretty good place with him. He had a really good visit. I haven't talked to Josh personally, but I've talked to and read a lot of reports about people that have spoken to him. Everything seems to go well. If I had to predict, I think he's probably going to be a Hog, but we'll wait and see when his announcement comes out. How do you guys feel about Cohen?
Brandon, I think you and I probably watched the same highlight reel. He's not flashy by any means. He's definitely a slower pace style of basketball guy. He reminded me a lot of Nikola Jokic. Just plays at his own pace. He gets to his spots and he gets things done. He's a simple type of guy, extremely smart, like you said. I could definitely see him being a good rotation piece for the Hogs. I agree. I don't know if he'll be a starter, but definitely 15 to 20 minutes a game as a solid rotator.
Yeah, coming off the bench, he could be really good, and he would be I feel like he would thrive against the zone, because we saw how bad we struggled against that. Having him just being a threat. I know 34% isn't this guy's a great shooter. it's good enough to require attention. So I think
It's
that would be
great for
good.
being 6'10" too.
Yes,
Yeah, stretch the
very
floor a
good.
little bit.
But I agree. I don't necessarily want him as like my starting big. Me and Brandon both agree. We want just a absolute monster on the in the paint. So really hoping that we get somebody like that to accompany him, and I think he could play some solid minutes, and I would be happy to have him.
Yeah, and that shooting, and exactly like what you were saying, I think that he could do well like in the middle of a zone because he does
Mhm.
have good touch all the way up to the free throw line even,
Yeah.
and post moves like up in the, like the high post and the mid post. And I think
And
that he's the type of guy that can play well alongside a paint beast like we're talking about. It doesn't necessarily have to be a split at the center position. I think you could play them together if you got someone like that.
And to
Right.
add to that, he's got good vision in that high post area too. So I mean, again, with the paint beast, a nice quick dump down or a backdoor cut, like I mean, it could work pretty well in a zone aspect, like you said, Matt. That's a good call out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would be happy to get him for sure. And like I said, had a good visit and everything. I don't know for positive that we're leading the race, but I know that we're in a very good spot with him. So keep your eyes open, I guess, over the next few days. Maybe we'll get our first transfer announcement. But other than Cohen, we've got some other guys. Arkansas has reached out, like I said, to like 60 something guys. But there's a few I think that I believe they are targeting more heavily, but there's some guys that stand out to me personally as guys that I would love to see on the team next year as good fits. And I've been very vocal about how I feel like the big wing position, that 3-4 spot, was severely lacking this year. That big defender, versatile guy that doesn't need the ball in his hands, that Audis Tony, that Jordan Walsh, Trey Wade, that kind of guy. We just didn't have that this year. And so right out the bat, the first guy I want to talk about is Michael Brown Jones from UNC Greensboro, the same UNC Greensboro that beat Arkansas this year. Brown Jones is 6'8", 210, so kind of in that tweener spot, maybe more of a 4 than a 3 in today's college basketball landscape. You probably tend to play 3 guards and then some smaller forwards. But as a 4 spot, he could almost even play some small ball center, I think. But a very versatile guy. Averaged 19 points a game last year, almost 8 rebounds, an assist, 1 block a game, and shot 43% from 3 last year. That includes scoring 17 points against Arkansas. So he's not just beating up on smaller schools. He's doing it against better competition. And UNC as a whole had a really good year this year, and he was probably their best player. And they went 21-11 on the season. And I bring that up because this year I feel like we had a lot of guys that were the go-to guy on a bad team last year. And maybe not like all of them were terrible teams, but they weren't winning programs. They weren't winning a lot of games. You had guys coming from Louisville and Temple and even before that, Trevin Brazil coming from Missouri and places like that where it's just not winning programs. And understanding and knowing how to win is just as important as having the basketball skill set to win. So having a guy like that, I mean, he just checks all the boxes for me. He's that big, versatile guy, can guard 2 through 4, pick and pop threat, can score without the ball in his hands, very efficient. And then another guy that this next guy is more of a center, more of a bigger guy, uh, more so than Michael Brown Jones. I think Brown Jones is more versatile, but Sam Alexis from Chattanooga, 6'9", about 200 pounds as well. Only averaged 11 points per game last year, but averaged 9 rebounds and over 2 blocks per game.
That's
And
the
that is
type of guy that I
exactly
like. That's what I want to see next year.
Exactly. And exactly what we were talking about just a second ago with Josh Cohen. You pair a 6'10" offensive threat with a 6'9" guy averaging 2 blocks a game.
Yeah.
That's a lethal front court. Like we don't have to get guys that all shoot 45% from 3 or all average 15 points a game. You've got to fill out all the roles. And Sam Alexis, I think, checks those boxes too as that interior defense. And we kind of had that this year with Mackay. Kind of came into his own a little bit towards the end of the year. Started blocking a lot of shots. Chandler Lawson blocked a lot of shots this year. But all these guys are graduating. We have no bigs left on the roster other than Brazil, and he's not really a true center either. So I think Sam Alexis could be a really good option to step in and kind of fill that role. Again, Chattanooga was 21-12 on the season. Not like a historically great program, but had a winning record. He knows how to win games. So I think that he would be great playing alongside someone like Cohen, or even if you get him and Michael Brown Jones, that would be a great front court duo. And then one more guy in particular that I wanted to bring up, moving away from that big versatile defender that I've been talking about and raving about. One other guy that Arkansas actually played against this year, Chauncey Jenkins from Old Dominion, a 6'4" guard, averaged 16 points a game, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, about a steal and a block per game, and shot 32% from three on the season. Scored 21 points, had 7 rebounds, 3 assists, went 50% from beyond the arc against Arkansas this year. And I know that they lost that game, but they're supposed to lose the early season games to teams like Arkansas. And I think Jenkins really fits the mold of that bigger guard, that 6'4" guy, the frame that can and facilitate a little bit and score and be a versatile defender with a bigger frame. I think another thing that hurt us this year was that our guards weren't tiny, but they were all seemed like they were all between 6 foot and 6'2". And Ellis is 6'2", Minifield is 6 foot nothing, Blocker is 6'2". All these guys that we had playing were small. And I feel like in years past, Musselman has thrived with that big guard in his lineup, with a guy like Jalen Tate and Jimmy Witt and Anthony Black. I think JD Note is probably the only exception to that, and he was still like 6'2". He was still right on the borderline. So that big 6'4" frame, I think Jenkins could really fit that role, that mold of a big versatile guard that could thrive in Musselman's system. So those are really the three that are kind of at the top of my wish list right now that I think Arkansas is prioritizing and going after it hard in the portal. But I mean, there's just a ton of names out there. These are just three that have stood out to me so far. I'll let you guys bring up some other names right now, and then I'll throw out some more later if we don't touch on all of them.
Yeah, I've got a few that I just want to touch on real quick. First of all, we haven't reached out to him. I don't know if we will reach out to him, but if we can get Maxime Reynaud from Stanford over to Arkansas, I'll be great. I'll be perfect. That's our center. That's our big. We'll be great. I'm a big fan of him. Don't know if we'll even reach out, but I would love to get him. I think he's one of the top 15 transfers right now. But JP Peegs, big fan of him. I think he just oozes confidence, that guy, and he just has a swagger about him, and I would really like to see him. I think he kind of fits just the all around. He's a great scorer. He's a great playmaker. He's a decent rebounder. I think he averages over 4 rebounds a game. But I would really like to see us get a shot at pulling him in. Similar to what you said about Sam Alexis, Brandon, I'm also a fan of Toby Okani, but not his offense. He doesn't have great shooting percentages. He's just kind of that bigger, long wing guy. I think he averages 2 blocks a game. He gets a lot of blocks, and he's very aggressive. So he can. I saw him. I watched a few clips of him, and he bangs down low, just really rough with the guys down low. So I kind of like that. I think we need a rugged guy like that can give us a little bit of oomph.
I wanted to interject really quick,
Yeah.
Joey, on Okani. He's I think it was 5 players this year that averaged at least 1.5 steals and 2 blocks per game.
There we
And
go.
that is rare. That's a big defender, 6'7" dude. I would love
Yeah.
him as well.
Yeah,
So
I would really like him on the wing as one of our go-to guys. And then my last guy, Brandon Johnson from East Carolina. I think we reached out to him as well. He's a great catch and shoot guy, and he has NBA range. I think the video I watched said that he hit 17 threes from beyond 25 feet. So really, really good catch and shoot guy. Averaged 14 points a game, 8.5 rebounds a game, and almost 2 steals a game last year. He's 6'8" guy, good at running the floor. Just kind of a really good filling guy, similar kind of to Davenport in a way. But I almost want to say that he may be a little more impressive shooting wise. But I think we need those catch and shoot guys and those guys that can just rip down boards and kind of that 3-and-D guy I mentioned our last episode that I want to see us get. But those are the main ones that I'm targeting this offseason.
Yeah, and I just got one guy in particular that I just want to touch on because he was in the conversation last year, and that's from my alma mater from UCA, Cameron Hunter. All right.
Okay, yeah.
Now I have witnessed him play, and he's good. I like him. I like him a lot. Now, this is against UCA competition. Keep that in mind. We are not the best team on the season, but he did not play this season. Okay. He was hurt. I don't know exactly the injury, but almost 17 points a game, 5 rebounds, about 4 assists, and steal and a half. I mean, not bad stats. And he's got some experience. So I'd be fine with him. He's 6'3". He's not that big guy that we're looking for, that long guy, but I think the experience and maybe he'll do a little justice for getting somebody from the Central Arkansas area. I don't know if he's actually from Central Arkansas, but he lives here now. So we'll bring him in. But I just think that's interesting that we're going back after him because I know he was in conversation last year as well.
Yeah, he could be a good role piece. I don't know if they would bring him in as like their starting guard, but
No.
as a depth piece off the bench, you know, a guy that maybe what Keon Minifield was supposed to be like this year when,
Right.
you know, you bring in L. Ellis to be the starter and then some other guys that are scoring punches. I could see them doing something
And
like that with him.
he's one of those guys that he can give you some points. He will. Like he'll take off, but similar to I guess like a battle where all of a sudden he's got 30 and you didn't even realize it.
Yeah, and so like we've said, a ton of names out there. You've got guys like Amari Williams from Drexel was a name they contacted early on in the portal. Keyshawn Hall from George Mason, another 6'7" wing defensive guy. Malik Dia from Belmont, another 6'9" center. We could go on and on. There's been like 68 people that they've talked to already, but those are some of the big names that I think the three of us have they've stood out to us so far in the transfer portal season carousel, but it's still early. We're just getting started. Like I said, we haven't even had a commit yet. So it's going to be an interesting offseason. Got to get through all the must stuff. Got to start getting some portal commits, see who all's coming back. And we're going to be right here bringing you all of the information that we can as soon as there's information to be out. You can follow me on Twitter for roster updates as they happen at @BBakerHogs, and we will be bringing you guys information and in detail on guys that are committing, guys that we think could commit, names to watch, everything like that. So don't forget to follow along here at 30 Minutes of Hell podcast. We really appreciate you guys tuning in. Don't forget to go like, subscribe, leave a comment, whatever on YouTube, Twitter, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your stuff. We're brought to you by the Field of 68 Podcast Network. Once again, find us under 30 Minutes of Hell. I have been your host, Brandon Baker, joined by Joey Jackson and Matt Jackson. And as always, go Hogs.